Okay, everybody. This is the review video that we're gonna focus on. That I hope you take the quiz. You can see the first question. Be able to tell me the percentages that you need as far as signatures to get a petition number on the ballot. Remember, for a statute, which means a new law, it is 5%. And remember, to amend the California Constitution, it's a little bit different than what we can do here in the United States. We, as citizens, can amend the California Constitution. Remember, as far as petition signatures needed, you need 8% for that. Okay, so remember that. Be able to define elite theory. Elite theory focuses on, the people that have power, their behaviors, their demographics, and what they value. Know that some of the masses here are, intolerant of civil rights issues, and we'll get more into that. Know about John Locke and what his beliefs on the social contract were. Remember, the social contract is the belief system that we as individuals give up certain rights, in return the government protects us. So Locke's vision of the social contract would be that we submit to the government's rule, and the government is supposed to protect our life, liberty, and property. And, one of the things that, kind of going back on elite theory and how this whole process will run is, elite theory assumes that masses, and, when we talk about the characteristic of masses, they're usually, passive, apathetic, and ill-informed. When we get into talking about pluralism, pluralism is kind of the opposite of elite theory. Elite theory focuses on, just a small amount of people that are making decisions for an organization or a government. Pluralism is, kind of that expected that groups get together and compromise and bargain for different types of issues. Be able to understand what the Connecticut Compromise was, how, we have proportional representation in the House of Representatives and equal representation in the Senate. All right, so remember that. The Connecticut Compromise, also know the New Jersey Plan, which called for each state to have one vote, and then the Virginia Plan, which kind of wanted to reflect the House of Lords and the House of Commons in Great Britain. Know why the Federalists considered the Articles of Confederation to be weak. Know a little bit about the demographics of the men that wrote the Constitution. They were all educated at elite schools. They were all experienced in the government, and they all kind of maintained a national point of view. And we talked about the social contract. When we talk about the setting up of the Constitution, know that the Constitution sets up a system where the role of the masses is limited and direct. Remember, here as citizens, originally we would only be able to vote for House of Representative members directly. All right, so the Senate would be voted on by the states, and the president's obviously elected by the Electoral College. So we need to understand that. So like I said, know the Virginia Plan. Know how slavery was addressed in the Constitution. We had the 3/5 compromise. There was an agreement in the Constitution to not end the slave trade until about 1808, and that there was a requirement to return all runaway slaves. And slavery ended with a conservative president trying to maintain order. Know about the the kind of the manifest destiny, the moving out west, where they saw the West as a lucrative market for goods, a lot of raw materials, natural resources, and an area for the development of non-slave states. Know the system of checks and balances. Okay, be able to tell me how Congress can check the president, and how the president can check Congress. Knowing that the Articles of Confederation, one of the powers that was reserved for the states was the regulation of commerce, and obviously that is a revenue generator. So the federal government was upset and needed a way to generate revenue for the federal government. When we talk about nationalism, be able to define that, and that's the belief that it is necessary to submit to national power over your own individual values. Know that the Constitution was, and especially the first 10 amendments of the Constitution were used, and the Bill of Rights were used because the founders viewed government as a threat to freedom. Know what Dred Scott said? And Dred Scott ruled that slaves were considered property, not citizens. Know a little bit about industrialization in the 1800s, in the late 1800s. Know about Judge Aaron Persky and his recall effort. We talk about that in direct democracy. Remember, direct democracy, we have the referendum, the initiative, and the recall. And Judge Persky was recalled. And know the reasons why he was recalled. Know what the 10th Amendment does. And, there's been a really kind of a thought about the 10th Amendment now in our country. And what powers does the state have against the federal government? 10th Amendment basically says that any power that's not delegated to the federal government is reserved for the states. So in a sense, if we also can kind of look at where we have instances of federal law and state law conflicting, federal law is going to be supreme. So conceivably, with some of these marijuana dispensaries that we have here, marijuana for recreational and medicinal purposes is legal here in California, but it's illegal on a federal level, so conceivably the federal government can come in and shut down all the dispensaries. Know what Federalist 10 and 51 says? Don't worry so much about 47. 10 addresses factions and how in any type of organization there's going to be factions. And 51 kind of illustrates those separation of power things that we talked about. So those are the things that I want you to focus on. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right.